What's up, guys? It's your boy, Justin Carfera, here with a new book review. Today I'm reviewing the Ciaphas Cain The Anthology by Sandy Mitchell. This is an Imperial Guard novel, aka Astra Militarum, because GW got sued. Sued somebody, almost lost, and so they're like, okay, we need to change all of our names for our factions because yeah. So I first heard about this character from General Lots, which General Lots, awesome channel. Check him out. If you like the more nostalgic critic, like Guys with the Glasses style reviews, and I saw that the new Commissar Cain miniature came out with his aide, Gunnar Jurgen, or Jurgen. I don't know how to say his name. So I decided, I'm going to review one of the books. And one of the books I picked up was this book, which is the anthology book. So by the way, this goes for 22 Canadian. I would say it was worth it. So this character was originally like featured in like short stories in like magazines or whatever, Hammer and Bolter, Inferno, stuff like that. But he eventually got his own novel series, which is like 11 novels. This is not one of the novels. This is like anthology that collects 13 stories and a novella called Old Soldiers Never Die. Each story is roughly like 20 to 30 pages. Yeah. And they span from early 2000s to later ones where it's like 2021 or 2022, which some of the later ones were kind of funny because it's like he'll call the Imperial Guard Astra Militarum, but then he'll just go back to calling the Imperial Guard again, which is like nice. I hate the new name, Astra Militarum. Space military? Shut the fuck out. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. But yeah. So the character is basically the premise of the stories, which they're very formulaic, is about like an old retired, well, not old because he has the Juvenat procedure, whatever what hell it's called, where you can keep yourself young, right? It's like life extensions procedures. And he's a retired commissar and he's writing memoirs, which in some of the stories there's like edits with his Inquisitor girlfriend, Emberlay Vey or whatever, who's from the Ordo Xenos, is doing edits and like has like little things where she's like explaining what like terminology for something is. Like here's one. He says like, for all I know, they had okay. More likely it was simply air or the gas of decompression passing over the vocal cords. Okay, that's the story where they're fighting zombies, which I think that was from the old novella, right? From the novella, Old Soldiers Never Die. Okay. And it's about this Commissar Cain who is kind of like a bumbling hero type. He very much reminded me of Bruce Campbell from that fucking TV show he did. What was it called? Oh my god. I forget what it was. Something Jack. Oh my god. You know that old saying? Master, Master of none. Oh my god. I gotta look it up. Jack of trades, master of none. That's what he's like. He reminded me of like Bruce Campbell from that show where Bruce Campbell plays the spy. Oh my god. Like he plays like American Revolutionary spy, but then he's like this bumbling kind of buffoon. But he's like cocky and like very charismatic. That's what Commissar Cain is. Commissar Cain, just like in a lot of 40K books, is this character who's he's not your atypical whatever, right? So he's not like your atypical commissar, which commissars are like basically like the sergeants in Imperial Guard units are based off the old like Russian sergeants, where their job is to make sure everybody in the unit fights, and if they take one step back, looks like they're about to retreat, bam, they get shot in the head. So yeah, he has, yeah, so that's kind of like what his job is, but like he does not believe in that, because commissars tend to get killed in friendly fire, right? And there's even one of the stories, I think it was like the last one, where it was like, no, it might not have been the last one, it was like the second last one, where like there's like he has to investigate like in commissar getting murdered or whatever, and everybody hated him, which is like, oh, of course, that's how commissars are. And the first story is he's a young commissar, and he's able to, through gambling matches or whatever, got himself a nice job at working for like the 12th Field Artillery, which their job is to shoot at the enemy from far away, so he doesn't have to be in the front lines. And that's where you get the feel like, oh yeah, this guy, he's actually kind of a coward, doesn't want to fight, but at times he has to look heroic, right? Now people say he's actually a heroic character, he just thinks he's a coward. Who the hell knows? That's where he gets introduced to Jurgen, which is this guy with the melt-a-gun, who is his comical sidekick, who at the end of the story becomes his aide. Who is a psychic blank. So every time, psychic blanks are people who have no souls, next to no personalities, which the main character, Jurgen, is very dumb. Almost comically-esque. And he's a blank, which means like psyker abilities, warp abilities have no effect on him. So there are scenes where like there's a scene in one of the books. There's like 2 short stories that have to deal with Jurgen, and there's several times where he'll run into a psyker. A psyker will try to use like a psychic attack on him or spell, and it has no effect, and they're dumbfounded, and he just stabs him, dude. Like there's literally when he stumbles upon like a sorcerer summoning a demon, the demon comes out, and he just blasts the demon with his lasgun in full auto. Demons, as they're called, are some of the hardest fucking things to kill in Warhammer 40K, dude. To the point where Grey Knight, an entire chapter had to be dedicated just to killing demons, right? The Grey Knights, which are part of my Imperial Agents chapter. Yeah, faction, yeah, army. And in that story, there's literally a scene where Tyranids show up to attack the base. He tricks his aide to commandeer a vehicle called the Salamander, which is his almost like his iconic vehicle that he uses like in all the stories. Which honestly, when they put out the miniature for Commissar Cain, probably should have just been him and Jurgen in a fucking Salamander. Like I would have bought that shit. But no, it's just him with his chain sword in a funny pose, and Jurgen with his lasgun or whatever. So this in the first story, that's when he becomes like the hero of the Imperium, where he tries to flee as the base gets fucking attacked by Tyranids, only to stumble upon like a whole fucking invading army that's doing a flanking maneuver, where he's able to report it to the base, and they're able to do a counteroffensive, and he saves everybody, right? Which is like, what the fuck? And after that, there's the huge misunderstanding where he becomes a hero. So there's a lot. This book is more comedic adventures. This is what the character is. He's more almost like a parody of Warhammer 40K, where it's not grimdark at all. And the way people talk, it's like they talk normal, right? They even swear, like fracking, and then they have like common conveniences, like a lot of the time Jurgen will be on one of his data slates looking at porn. And it's just normal. It's like, holy shit. There is no sex in the book though. If you're wondering. Maybe there is some implied sex. So, and the different stories, he'll encounter. It's funny because most of the Imperial Guard books I've read or looked at, they're fighting like chaos cultists or like, rebels. Here, thankfully, there's not a lot of that. There are some chaos cults. Like there's one of the early stories which I really enjoyed is like they're fighting chaos cults and they haven't figured out like why are the chaos cults almost fighting each other, and it's because it turns out it's like two rival fucking cults. One's like for Khorne and one's for Slaanesh. Not Khorne, sorry, it was Nurgle. There is one Khorne cult in here, but like, yeah, so like he's mostly, there's some stories where he's fighting Tyranids, there's some stories where he's fighting chaos cultists. There's one story where he's fighting like Gene Stealer cults, and there's one story which was probably my favorite story, where he tags along with Admechs, and the Admechs are not your typical Admechs. And there's a character in there who's like a sergeant for the Tech Guard. I think his name's Tarkus, and it's like, holy shit. I'm thinking, is this the same Tarkus from the Grey Knights novel? Nope, because he dies in the end of the book. And Commissar Cain gets invited to go on this, like, expedition, only for the expedition to turned out to be on a fucking tomb world with Necrons, where they summon Necrons, and they didn't know what the fuck they were, right? And they get almost wiped out to the man, and only for Commissar Cain to escape, losing two of his fingers on one of his hands, which they rarely reference that, like, that he lost like two of his fingers on one of his hands that were replaced for prosthetics, but whatever. And he gets saved by Space Marines, which that's the only time there were Space Marines in the book. There's no Space Marines in the other stories. Maybe in the omnibuses there are, I don't know. It's mostly Imperial Guards are the heroes, which is fine. Did I mention they also fight Gene Stealer cults a couple times? And I also liked, I was listening to Northern Exile explain why Trench Crusade sucks, and it brought up something with this book, which I was going to bring up in my review. Like, okay, I like this. This was fun adventure book, but it's not really grimdark, and Warhammer 40K is known for its grimdark. But he brought up a good point where if everything's grimdark all the time, then the setting, it's almost like, why even read this? Why give a shit about the world or the stakes? Because then, if a world's not worth living in, then it's like, it feels like they're fighting for nothing. So here you see the brighter side of the Warhammer of the Imperium. That not everything's bad. That there are some there are some good worlds. Like there are some worlds they went to where like they had a fun time actually. It's not every world is on the verge of being wiped out by Xenos, aliens, or mutants, or chaos cults. So okay, it is good. It's the thing where it's like we're used to reading like Space Marine novels or Xenos novels or whatever, that we forget that, oh yeah, there are normal people who live normal lives in these books, and it's good to read that. So when you're reading like your grimdark, you realize, okay, this is what they're fucking fighting for, right? I did find it weird that the character is like 100 years over. He gets, at one point, he's like over 100 years old. He's the military gave him like these procedures to keep him going, and all the side characters from the earlier stories are also still alive. Even Gunner Jurgen, who's just a gunner. They try to keep the fact that he's a blank secret, so like Inquisitor agents Inquisitors don't fucking steal him, right? And try to recruit him. So it's like, what the fuck? How do they just... Okay, I get like Cain is considered a hero in this universe, but then how do they justify all these side characters are also still alive 100 years later? That was my only complaint, really. But yeah, also there was a story later on where it's like, oh, where they fight like Bile Titan, a Tyranid Bile Titan, and that was where it's like, oh, okay, it's like a Godzilla story. It's almost like Commissar Cain is in a Godzilla movie, and I thought that was cool. I explained it to my date that was on I was on a date Friday. It's Friday when I'm recording this. And she's like, wow, that sounds kind of dumb. So some people might find it dumb, some people might find it fun. I don't know. I enjoyed this book. I would give it. It's the thing where, because it's a comedic adventure book, and as it's kind of its problems, I would give it like a 6 out of 10, honestly. But if you, but it is a really good book, and I would enjoy it. You would probably enjoy it, but it's the thing where this is not, even though it shows a lot of different factions, different Xeno races, and all that shit. There's even a story with an orc, which I thought the guards mostly fought orcs, but whatever. Other than like other, rebelling humans. But yeah, it was good. I thought we could have used more orcs though. Come on. But yeah, this is not a good. My point is, even though this has a lot of like variety with enemies, this is, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this as a first read for somebody who's not new to 40K, because it doesn't have the right tone. It's a very light tone. But overall, it's a great book. Totally recommend it. Peace out.